Hey everyone, great to be back with you guys and talking about our financial picture in our schools. As I'm speaking to you, it's November 2nd, 2022, and that's relevant because I want to talk about some of the foundational pieces. I hope that you guys as framework users have worked your way through during this year, and today's content is all the other things. So I want to do a quick recap first of the foundational pieces that should be in place before you even open up the door to think about all the other things. So you guys have heard me say a lot of times that until you work on the 5 pillars of your financial health, don't think about anything else. So I want to review those real quickly and be sure that the content that we delivered earlier this year is always available to you guys. So certainly go back and see those. We focused on very strongly first so that we were paying attention to the most important things as we got into shoring up our financial health. It's more critical today than it ever has been in my 38-year history in this industry to be sure that we are making sound decisions toward our financial health, because we have some very fast changing market conditions right now, and namely staff costs. I don't have to tell you guys that we are really quickly paying people more and more and more. We are instituting new benefits to a faster pace. And unless we be sure that our pricing and our occupancy, the 2 main drivers of revenue, are sound and match up with that level of service that we're providing, then no amount of cost control will get us where we need to be. So what I want to talk about real quickly is a review of the 5 critical areas. So hopefully in the fall, you guys worked on your tuition rates and your discounting. They go hand in hand. We need to be sure that our tuition rates reflect the quality of service that you are providing, and the quality of service you're providing is indicated by the expenses and what you're having to spend to provide that quality. So very often, because this industry attracts the most wonderful people, and it's what keeps me in it after 38 years doing nothing else, is the care and consideration that everyone has for their families and the children and for their teams. So we're at a, we have to support our teams. And what that means is that families have to pay what it costs for you to take care of that team. And it's a delicate balancing act, right? So hopefully most people raise their tuition rates in the fall. Some people do that in January. Many people are doing it twice a year now so they can catch up. Many people are raising rates for new families at a faster pace than legacy families. But be sure that you are paying mindful attention to your tuition rates, and can you eliminate some discounts? That's a huge opportunity. And we're seeing also very little pushback from families. So families, look, they read the news, they know we're going into a restaurant now and things just aren't the same. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tipping bigger than I ever have. I really appreciate those people. And our families also understand the value and what they have in you and your teachers. So now is the time to be sure that we're paying mindful attention. The second marker of our revenue is our occupancy. How full are we? Be sure that you're maximizing your classroom space, that you're enrolling children. And I know this is a delicate balance too. I see people who are timid to put more children in a classroom because they don't want to stress the teacher that's already stressed. It's really important for the financial picture to help those teachers understand that a full capacity in their classroom means that you're able to pay them more. You're able to provide more benefits. So tuition rates, discounting, and occupancy, the three key drivers of financial health as far as our revenue goes. Be sure again that you're maximizing hours for people. Again, never been harder to manage our staff costs. It's generally, though, not a reflection of what we're paying people, but that our tuition rates aren't high enough to support what we're paying people. Because I know that you guys are finding the right balance in what you're paying people. It's risen, it's had to go up, but also be sure that your tuition rates reflect that. And then the third thing is, what is your rent or mortgage? Be sure that you understand the key markers and the revenue to rent or mortgage percent, that your company, it falls in the lines of financial health on that. And once you have those 5 things under control, you're 95% of the way there. So I want to be sure, some good stuff we're going to talk about today, but I want to be sure that you have focused first on those 5 things. Always ask us questions. You can go to the contact us portion of your framework. We're happy to answer questions. We're actually doing a couple of Zooms with a few of you who are either confused about how to input data or need help interpreting the data. So don't hesitate to reach out to us for help if there's anything we can do in helping you look at your individual situation. So we've got a couple of you guys live with us today. That's great. We're getting a lot more pickup from people that watch these sprints later, which is perfectly fine. You need to do it when it makes sense for you. But we do have some live attendees, and if you guys want to ask questions or make comments during this presentation, certainly put the questions in the question box or the chat. I'd be happy to take those. Okay, so first of all, let's just look at all the other stuff. All right, for 3 sets of buckets we're going to look at. We dealt real strongly with our staffing cost section in a previous sprint. So today we're going to look at our facility cost, our program cost, and our administrative cost. We take a little bit of license in the way that we group things. You may do it differently, and that's okay. It's just that we benchmark based on our categories because it's easy to group companies across the country so we can compare, be sure that our benchmarks are still relevant, they're not changing. And we may combine some things you don't. You may have many more categories, and those are fine. If you want to compare yourself to the national average, think about these categories, and maybe you can do some manual combinations of things. So first of all, in our facility cost section, we dealt real strongly with rent and CAM. CAM is common area maintenance. It's usually if you're part of a condo system or a large shopping center environment, you might have common expenses like lawn care and maintenance with other tenants. So the combination of those 2 things, around 13 to 15%. We dealt with this in great detail in another sprint. So if you have other questions about that, dig in deeply there. Other categories in this facility section, repairs and maintenance. So more and more people are having a dedicated person, whether it's a staff person or an outside contractor, who comes in and knows the building or buildings really well and supports with maintenance. There has been a lot more investment since COVID, logically so, into maintaining our buildings, being sure they're kept clean. This fall, we're seeing new surges of illnesses. The flu's already hit pretty strongly. So we're not finished with being sure that our buildings are safe and they're clean. Second category there, floors and janitorial. We also, during COVID, saw more and more companies outsource their daily cleaning Some of those kept that, some of them went back to having teacher provided cleaning with occasional floor buffing and refinishing. So it still feels like more people are outsourcing that and relieving teachers of that burden. So a common denominator we're starting to see is, what can we take off of teachers? What can we take off of managers and outsource so that they can do their job easier and better? For lawn care, this is pretty consistent. Most everybody will have similar size lots. They'll have some lawn and shrubbery maintenance, and they have that done regularly, almost always by an outside entity. Some people love to do it themselves. Some people delegate to a husband or a son or a daughter or someone in their family. So that's typical as well. We are seeing an increase in security systems on buildings, into classrooms, camera systems. I'm watching this category. We may actually see an increase in spending from this category. I'm hesitant to make big changes in the model right now because COVID numbers still reflect some COVID protocols that may or may not stick around, but you might see that some of these cleaning and maintenance, lawn care, security categories increase and level off over time. So I don't make sharp changes in the model. In the 25 years since I first built it, I've only changed 4 things, and those are slight. So I hope you find that as comforting as I do, that once we know this model and we get used to it, we know how to manage it, then it doesn't change drastically over time. So that's good for us. The next category is utilities. This is going to be your power and your water. And this is pretty consistent. You know, it's relative to the size of the building, obviously. It's also relative to the age of the building, as is repairs and maintenance. So you'll see a flip very often in the rent and the other facility costs. So to the extent you've got a higher rent, you usually have a newer building and lower maintenance and security and utilities costs and insurance. When that flips over and you've got an older building, almost always those costs go up. They usually level out. So if we're going to go down to 10% for rent, we've got an extra 3%. It usually gets sucked up by some of those other categories. So the total usually stays the same, but just know your situation and how these behave in your building. In the insurance category here, just the hinge methodology, usually when we see numbers from folks, we don't have individualized insurance information. So we do put health insurance and other employee insurances in our staff cost section, because it's critical to know how much is costing you in total for your staff. We combine all other insurances here. So liability, building, vehicle, and you may have multiple categories here, which is fine. Just add those up, you know, to compare yourself with others. I'm starting to hear just in the last couple of weeks, a couple of people whose insurance companies have increased the cost drastically or just said, no, you had an incident and we're out of here. So I'll watch that to see if that becomes something that's more prevalent or that was just some one-time blips. We'll see. Property taxes is another thing that can be all over the place. If you're in New Jersey, it's like another mortgage. So that number could be really, really high. If you're in some other states where property taxes are lower, then this is a good average for you right here. So this assumes that the operator is responsible for the rent or mortgage, also the insurance, maintenance, and property taxes. So at times, some people don't have responsibility for that, and that's great. Again, know your situation and know that, okay, I don't have to pay property taxes. My landlord does that for me. So now I've got another 0.5% here. What am I going to do with that? Staff costs. That's where it's going to go. And then telephone, of course, is turning into internet and telephone and those kind of things. A lot of people are getting more and more away from basic telephone systems into security systems with telephones and internet and more modern ways to access communication with families and the outside world. So we're sort of grouping categories right there. But communication with prospective parents and current parents in the community happens in some way, and there's an expense associated with that. So that is our facilities cost section. In total, the range is about 24–25% of everything you bring in is going to go to pay for a facility. There's some people who pay zero for a facility. A church donates it, or they've got some wonderful situation. So we hate them, but those people might choose to charge less in tuition very often, or have lower ratios, and they use that expense category to have a higher quality program in a different way. So just to know your situation and what you're responsible for, what categories you might be able to use here or somewhere else. So those are our facility costs. Then we have a category of what I collectively call program cost. And here's how I think about this. Everything that it costs to operate the classroom, manage the children, move them around, everything that's directly associated with running the program, I collectively call program cost. So largest category, if you provide food, is your food expense. We did see a real big trend during COVID, and I love this strategy, of families beginning to bring their own food. So during COVID, it was safer. We've got more allergies now. You bring what your child likes, and 5% is a lot of money. So most people can get this down to about 1.5% if families bring food. So you're still going to provide juice usually, or milk, or maybe a snack. But that's a great strategy to shift some of that expense into ever-rising staff costs. This percent might be larger if you're on the USDA food program. That program requires overspending. There's usually a good bit of waste associated with it. So most of those schools will go up to 6%. So if you're providing full-blown meals, 5 to 6%. If you're not, 1.5-ish. So that's a good consideration for if you think about your tuition rates, maybe I can't go up the $10 a week I need to, but maybe I can go up $7 a week and have families start to bring food. So that's another strategy you can employ. There are other categories for supplies. We happen to use paper goods as one. We use cleaning products. Program supplies would be things you would use for your curriculum: paper, crayons, glue, other materials to help. Very creative teachers will have all kinds of things in that. I always love seeing what they use, but what it costs you to operate the curriculum. Advertising and marketing is a funny one. So this is an inverse relationship. The lower your revenue, the more you want to spend on advertising and marketing. So that percent can really fluctuate. As your revenue rises, you might be able to level off a little bit with more community awareness and regular advertising and marketing. So that one's kind of funny. It's our instinct as revenue drops and occupancy drops to pull that back, because it's an easy one, right? I mean, we don't have to do that direct mail piece. We don't have to do more paid social media marketing. We don't have to do those things, but that's the exact wrong thing to do. That's when you need to invest in your advertising and marketing. So think real strongly about that. As occupancy is lower, you have a few key openings, do something to get that message out, even if you have to pay more for it. I will say that advertising and marketing costs have decreased drastically since my first days in the industry, because it's easier, cheaper, faster to get information out now with social media and other forms of communication. So that's an area, one of the 4 areas I've actually changed pretty strongly over time. You might have vehicle expense if you provide transportation for after schoolers, or if you also provide outside field trips, then you might either own or lease a vehicle. So there could be a vehicle lease in here. There's gas, oil, and maintenance. So this one really varies. You know, it could be 0, and it could be a really big number if you have a huge after school program and you do a lot of field trips. So this one's usually pretty manageable. It follows the flow of providing those services, and most people do a great job with that. You're going to typically have some dues to state or local childcare organizations. You might have a subscription to some web-based curriculum information, or, you know, there are a myriad of things that this category might collect. It's important to stay plugged in your state and in the nation. It's important to align yourself with other people in the industry, and there could be some dues associated with mastermind groups or other things that you can be a part of to be sure you stay on top of what's happening in the industry and be a thought leader yourself there. And then the last one here is we always throw a miscellaneous one in there, because there's so many things you can do with your program, and well, there's no way for us to capture all those cool things. So this set will usually be about 15 to 16% of your total revenue. And then the last one that we look at is administrative costs. I'm watching some things here too, because while administratively, we historically have kept things pretty low, where we would spend about 2% of our revenue on all things administrative. During COVID also, there were some very creative new technologies. People began to think about communication with families differently. We saw a big increase in parent communication portals and the way you take payments. So now there are fees associated with that. So anything that took the people element out, again, you're taking more tasks off of your managers, you're taking more tasks off of your teachers, you're using technologies and systems and processes to help them do their job easier and minimize the people time that's so precious and that's so difficult for you to gain right now. So anything, sorry, I just went right over. Anything in the administrative cost section should accomplish that. Do I need to be spending this? Is it helping us do work easier? Is it helping us do work better? Are we supporting our goals and values in things like communication? So some of the potentials here are, there are always some licensing fees. You know, the majority of us have to be licensed by our state, and there are fees associated with that. There are some exceptions in programs that don't have to license. The majority of the community pays some licensing fees. What I call credit card processing. Now, so here's another thing I'm watching. And what I mean by credit card processing, it might not be credit cards, it might be automatic drafts. There are fees associated with automatic ways for people to pay other than to hand you a check and hand you cash, which most people have stopped taking anyway. If you need someone to pay, take whatever they give you, by the way, but you might make a common practice out of no cash. It's too risky. And most people are moving away from checks at all. But again, there are processing fees. However, it saves you people time. Now, you're not as much tracking down payments and chasing families and having your manager stressed out about it when it can be automated and drafted. Now you're only following up on people whose draft didn't work for some reason, or they disenrolled. So you're working on some of those things. But we have seen this category, again, it can be zero because some people are not automated at all the way up to pretty big dollars, which I think is cool because I think that you are trading those costs for some staff costs, which is beautiful in today's world. Typically some bank fees, you know, the bigger you get and the less you need the money, the less the bank charges you, which is always funny. But negotiate your bank fees with your primary operator of your bank account. You can negotiate your transaction fees and your per account fees. And so that's not the first thing to do if you haven't done the big five, but it certainly is something for you to do because those can really add up. You're always going to have some measure of supplies for your office. You've got copy paper, you've got pens and markers and things that you need to run your company administratively. Postage, we do a little less of that. We can send things and sign things and do that kind of work so much easier. This category may actually go away or be combined with something else, but so far we haven't seen it happen. And then we have travel, and this is really, this percent is low. It would consider somebody's going to a conference and you're going to pay for their travel. This is not owner travel. So I will say that owners use this category liberally, and that's perfectly fine. And so very often this dollar amount is big. Now, when we're doing evaluation, those kind of things get removed from the numbers because that's not something a new operator, if we were selling a school, would take on. So we take all those things out. But this would just be a teacher or a director went somewhere. So again, with those categories, our facility cost, our program cost, and our administrative cost, embedded in there are some opportunities to be sure that we are aligning with current practices, that we're making things more efficient, that we make good decisions to help minimize costs so we can help support some of these rising staff costs. But your biggest opportunity is in your big five. So take care of those first and look at these second. Reach out to the team at Hinge if there's any question we can answer or any support that you need. And we will look forward to hearing more about your success in these areas. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you soon, friends.